Welcome to this episode of the Ortho T Podcast. I'm your host, Chad Garreau, and today I'm joined by my very good friend, Ethan Pollak. And so, Ethan, we're so happy to have you. He is one of the co-founders of the Pulse Device, which is a super cool system. We definitely love it. And so we're going to get into that today. What is a Pulse Device? Who is Ethan? And what do we use it for? All those kind of things. So, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it.
And thanks so much for having me, Chad. It's a pleasure to be on here, and it's so cool to get to have this conversation after we've collaborated so many times and had our device used on so many different patients in your clinic. So thanks again for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting kind of how we got together and all that, which we can talk about that and, how we got together and just kind of partnered up on a lot of things. And I mean, it's just really been awesome for me and your company and whatnot. So just tell everybody a little bit about yourself or, kind of how'd you get started in this? How did it all happen? Those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, I guess I'll take us way back to about 5 years ago now. So, again, my name's Ethan, as Chad so gracefully said, but we actually initially created our device 5 years ago to help weightlifters target and activate stubborn muscles on their body. So if you had a specific muscle that you had trouble targeting, had trouble engaging properly, that was the initial reason we created this device. Our other co-founder is a former semi-professional rugby player. I've really just been a fitness enthusiast for over 15 years, and we were actually lifelong training buddies because we actually went to preschool together, and then we found a love for fitness later on in high school, which was a blessing. So we had come across this bodybuilding technique, believe it or not, called muscle tapping, which was actually when your spotter or your training partner would gently tap on whatever muscle you were trying to target and activate throughout your workout. So maybe you have trouble connecting with your triceps and you'd have a spotter gently tap on your triceps to help you focus on that area and really build that mind muscle connection per se. And we were doing that technique and we looked pretty silly doing that in the gym. And we were like, there has to be a product that helps us do the same thing because it was helping so much. And for me, my biggest weakness was always my arms. I had trouble consciously focusing on them. I had trouble engaging them throughout the exercises. And we were doing this, seeing results. We were actually gaining muscle by doing this as well, which was really interesting. And again, search for a product, couldn't find anything. And we were actually both living in Utah at the time. And we presented this idea to make a product that could actually mimic this tapping sensation to this development studio called Modality in Salt Lake City. And they loved it. And they actually were the ones that told us, hey, we can facilitate this tapping sensation through a few different mechanisms, but the one that we are most interested in doing is vibration. And they put us onto this idea of localized vibration. There was a lot of scientific research about it, but there was no actual product that was taking advantage of the benefits that were found in the literature. So we actually took those same findings from the scientific literature and applied them to a localized vibration device that later became known as the Pulse device. And what happened was we released to the market, again, that when we released, it was about 4.5 years ago. And the feedback right from the jump was coming from a wide range of people, whether it was weightlifters or physical therapists or people that had previously suffered from injuries. We had kind of gathered these populations that we didn't expect because a lot of people that really needed to improve the mind-body connection, improve targeted muscle activation, were people that, again, had either suffered from injuries or they were involved in some sort of rehabilitation, whether that's because of a neuro condition or a musculoskeletal condition. All of the best feedback we were getting was specifically from the neuro community and really the physical therapy and occupational therapy communities as well. So we got all this feedback, and it took us a long time to really understand that we had accidentally created something that could have a tremendous impact for rehabilitation. And it also took a little bit of adjustment from our side because we were two weightlifters that, again, were trying to build our best physiques, but we didn't really understand that this device could help people on such a more incredible level and that it had so much more purpose than we initially intended for it to have. So we gathered this positive feedback. And again, fast forward a couple of years, we actually ended up hiring two researchers, muscle physiologists, out of the UK that did an internal literature analysis of all the existing scientific research on local vibration therapy and training.
Wow.
And they actually compiled that for us internally and analyzed how we could apply those findings to our specific device for those rehab and physical therapy related applications. So we made some real rehab settings, and that's when everything kind of exploded, because we're now hearing from people like, again, post-stroke patients, people suffering from MS, people suffering from Parkinson's. They're now telling us this device is helping me improve my quality of life. It's helping me improve things like motor function and mobility alongside my physical therapy and rehabilitation. And a lot of people are really using it for pain relief and stiffness relief. And the list kind of goes on and on. We have people telling us that it's providing them sensory feedback in areas that they couldn't feel properly. So there's all sorts of different applications that it's being used alongside now. And again, we thought we had created a weightlifting device, but the people that really need a localized vibration therapy device are people that, again, are dealing with some sort of underlying condition where they need help improving their day-to-day life, or somebody that really just wants to take their training and their performance to the next level so that they can improve strength where they really need it most and stuff like that. So that really takes us to today. And thanks to people like you adopting our technology, the word has kind of spread like wildfire. And now there's a lot of clinics that use our device and a lot of patients. So the support has been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many great applications for this that is just phenomenal. And really kind of going back to how I discovered it, I think it was on Instagram maybe that I come across, one of your ads or something like that. And I was like, man, this looks really cool, kind of checking it out. And right off the bat, I thought, well, this would be something good to provide kinesthetic awareness, that kind of that tapping type thing you alluded to, is that kinesthetic awareness for patients, because a lot of times when you have different injuries, we know that you can have disruption of that kinesthetic awareness. And so during the recovery process, sometimes that's hard to recreate. It's hard to recreate that. There's different techniques and all, but one that's as efficient as a pulse device I've never seen before. So I was very interested in that. So I reached out to you, and we talked pretty quick. I think it was pretty quick. We got together and started talking, and it was like, hey, look, I want to send you this product out. I want you to try it out. Let's check it out and kind of go from there. I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. And I really like the it's free app, which we'll get into all that, and the app that you can just download, super easy to use. And so I got it in, and I thought, well, what can I use this for at first? Which it does come with, the adhesive backing. It comes with those adhesive backings. I'll let you talk about all the different things that comes in, but I have, if you can see here, put it in the camera. So I have go this way. Sorry. I moved my cameras around, right? So I got several cameras in here, and only one of them's working right now. I only have one on. And so, but the Pulse device, what's so cool about this is it's really small. It has this adhesive backing on here, and it sticks right to just, any of the surfaces. People ask, they'll say, well, does this stick if if I'm sweating and things like that? I've never had any issue with that. And there also are these straps, so you can kind of fasten it. It fits really easy in these straps. You can strap it on. And so anyway, so I started using it for different applications. And, for a lot of people, the big question that, I get asked a lot, it's like, is this the same thing as a TENS unit? Which it is not. It is not the same thing as a TENS unit. And even for, some patients, for me, it's patients or clients, right, that are in situations where they cannot use a TENS unit because maybe they've got some kind of device, or they're just not medically where their doctor will allow them to use those kind of things. This was such a great alternative to be able to use, because you just throw it on there. You're passenger in the car or whatever, you're going down the road and shoulders bugging you, and turn this thing on, set it where you want to set it, which I've got all sorts of really cool stories with that. But it's really easy to use. And so right off the bat, I like that. I thought, well, this is really simple. And I just started thinking about all the different conditions, because I know originally we talked, you had it set up for your, the exercise community, muscle building and fitness and all these types of things, athletic performance and all. And I thought, well, how can I incorporate this into other things that we do every day? That's really simple, because most especially if you look at different electric stim units, I know this is a different mechanism. And honestly, I tell people all the time, like, I don't care sometimes what the mechanism is, as long as it works. If it works for you and it allows us to hit those goals and those marks, that's fine. And so, when you compare it to the cost of a lot of other devices, and I have things in my clinic that are outrageous, that cost more than my first car, some of my modality machines, which is just crazy. You cannot beat what you're getting the product for what you're using it for. And so, like I said, we started using it for different things. One of the videos I know that we created was on using local vibration therapy for foot drop. And I'm not saying it cures foot drop, but the ability to provide that tapping sensation, just like what you're talking about. I can't really, have a patient walk, or if it's a patient that's had a stroke and they're trying to move their arm, sometimes it's hard. You don't have that extra free hand to be able to do this tapping technique while you're trying to do these other movements or go through your balance things or whatever you're trying to do. That's hard where's this extra hand going to come from? Well, that's where you use a pulse device. Put it on there and let that run while we're going through the different things that we're trying to accomplish. And it's so efficient. It's so easy. People also will ask me a lot of times, and as far as like pain, does it hurt? No, not at all. Actually, it's the complete opposite. It helps. True story here recently, I kind of irritated my right shoulder, and I've had a history in that shoulder of some bicep tendinopathy in the long head. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to throw the pulse device on, just stuck it on there, went home, kind of done stuff around my house. Don't have all these cords and leads hanging down everywhere from stuff, don't have to worry about clipping anything on my side. And I just put it on and walked around. And the only thing I have to control it with my phone, which, most of us have our phones pretty close by anyway, right? Just use the phone and just adjust my settings, turn it up and down, however I wanted to run it. And so that was really cool. That's just kind of how I just started getting into using it, and then just coming up with more applications for it. There's more things that we can use it for. You have a patient, and in my case, it's a patient, right, that had a painful shoulder, and we're trying to go through range of motions. Let's use frozen shoulder, for instance. Now, I'm not saying it's curing frozen shoulder, but a frozen shoulder typically goes through a process, 9 months to 2 years kind of a thing for a lot of people. So, what we want to do is maintain as much range of motion as we can, right? Maintain that range of motion, improve as much flexibility as we can, and just calm down as much pain as we can so you can still function on a daily basis. And so that worked really well, putting it on the shoulder and then having the patient go through movement, range of motion, stretches, put on when you're doing stretches, whether you're trying to inhibit or basically excite, the muscles, depending on what you're trying to use it for. We found different applications work differently. If I'm trying to, want to inhibit muscle tone, going through maybe a hamstring stretch, or maybe there's a tight pec muscle or whatever that is, use it more for an inhibitory setting. Just kind of turn it down, crank it up too high, try to inhibit things. That makes the stretch more tolerable for the patient. They'll say, well, it's more tolerable. It's not as bad today. Or if we're trying to activate, got to really, after you have a, shoulder surgery, let's get the rotator cuff going as fast as we can. Well, those patients, a lot of times, right, you can't go through heavy resistance training. There's a protocol. We have to be easy. And so what a better way than to try to stimulate the muscle? Let's get a little more. Everybody wants to get a little more bang for their buck in everything we do in life. It's just normal human nature, right? Like if I'm going to do one thing, I want to maximize and get everything I can out of that. So that's kind of the way that I explain it to people. They say, well, no, we're not going to put this on all of a sudden. You're going to have these incredible gains over the course of a week, but we are going to be able to start some of our movements and start the tolerance. Now, when you get to the point where you're phasing out of your rehab and you're more return to sport type things, or whether you're an industrial athlete, working heavy industrial type work, then of course we can use it in those applications then. But anyway, so really cool. That's a little bit of my background with it. We kind of started using, and so super cool. And I forgot, I reached out about my daughter was going to have shots one day. She was getting shots. I had messaged you, and it was pretty close. I thought, I wonder if I can't, because I'd been reading where people are using like even those like massage gun type things in an area to try to almost, kind of like when you're a kid and one foot hurts or your hand hurts and somebody stomps your foot or stomps your hands. Like now you don't think about that because now this hurts. So it's kind of like that. And I reached out to you. I was like, what do you think? So you kind of give me some setting parameters. Hey, try this out. So my daughter was having some shots, and they were, in the glute, getting the shots, and at the doctor's office. And so we see, actually my sister's a nurse practitioner. So we're seeing my sister, and I said, I got to try something, a little experiment here. And my daughter's really nervous, about it. So we put the pulse device in the area that she was going to have the injection. It just, kind of close. I turned it on. I let it run maybe 5 minutes before, she gets the injection. And especially her, terrified of shots. So goes to the shot, and she's like, well, that wasn't that bad. Now, this wasn't like some crazy big research study I conducted, right? But just anecdotally from past experience, she definitely said, well, that wasn't bad at all. And so I don't even know if, the could be an application for that. I mean, if you don't like, taking shots, I've not tried it myself for that. But again, my 9-year-old was not a fan ahead of time. And we thought she was going to have shots again the other day. She was like, well, I'm going to use those little vibration things if we have to do it, because that seemed to help. So, have you heard anything with that? Has anybody else mentioned that application?
It's funny, and thanks to your daughter, she actually wrote this little handwritten note thanking us, which was so heartwarming to see. But yeah, after it's so interesting. After you told us about that experience that she had with that pain modulation, we started diving a little bit more into that, and it made perfect sense that it would work for something like that, because we hear all the time from people, especially people that are dealing with daily pain, whether that's in their shoulders, their back, whatever it might be, that this thing just enhances every aspect of relief for them, whether again they're just on the road or they're sitting at home. And we've had a lot of people come to us and say similar stories where they were using our device prior to getting something like a shot, so that they would not feel that pain or not fear the procedure as much, which is really interesting. So the pain modulation side has been big for us, especially on the musculoskeletal side of things, when people have dealt with some sort of previous injury that's left them with pain throughout their daily life. And the results have been incredible. I mean, we're hearing from people, again, going back to that quality of life kind of terminology, a lot of people are just enabled to become the best versions of themselves because they're getting rid of that stiffness, they're getting rid of that pain, and that's basically unlocking better motor function and mobility for them. So the pain perception thing has been really interesting. And we've even heard reports from quite a few different customers that are saying it gets rid of the pain in the short term, right then and there, even just after a few minutes. But what's happening is that pain is actually not coming back in a lot of situations too. And I could equate that to a lot of different things, but it's been a really interesting kind of result that we've been getting told about from customers. And I think one of the really cool things about vibration is the potential for it to promote neuroplasticity and really just enhancing those synaptic connections or potentially reforming them or reorganizing them. And I think that applies to almost every single aspect of life, whether that's performance or relief. So we're hearing, especially from the neuro community, when it comes to those connections, those neural connections, the vibration is seemingly having some sort of impact for them, where it's leading to things like better relief in the short and long term, but also improvements in things like motor function and control in the long term. So it's been really, really cool to hear feedback like yours. And that's led us to going down so many different rabbit holes and finding so many different applications for this thing, because the nice thing about this device is it can literally be used as an adjunct to nearly anything when it comes to performance recovery or rehab. And it's so much more affordable than basically every single other thing in the market that could have a similar impact. So we've been making a huge push and a broader push, because we don't want to limit this to one use case. We want somebody to get their hands on this and then realize I can use it for X, Y, and Z, not just X.
Yeah, I mean, with the pain modulation, because vibration therapy obviously can have an effect on so many aspects, right? So you're talking about with the ability to modulate pain, which is functioning differently, right? Then you're going to use maybe some of your electric stim mechanisms and just different things. But I think from my experience, it seems more long lasting. I would say that in comparison. I mean, again, I'm not conducting research on it, but it does seem that uh, a longer lasting modality that we would use. And then the best part is the ability in my setting for the patient to be able to purchase one for home use. Take this thing home. You don't have to have all these fancy things. You don't have to have all these other things. Take it home, go through your exercises, take it home, put it on while you're just walking. You're going to go for your walk. You're on a walking program. You're going to put it on while you're doing that. I think those the ability, the convenience of that is really cool. It'd be very hard to mimic in a lot of cases with other things. Plus, I hate all the wires. All the different, like even like my headset right now, I've got wires hanging down. Right, like I don't like the wires. So if I can get away with something that doesn't have the wires, especially because when you want to go in, whether it's a gym or in a rehab clinic or whatever setting that is, or at home, and you want to just go through regular movement, you go day-to-day task. I want to go through and do different things. I'm having some maybe hemiparesis right in my shoulder, my upper extremity, and I don't want to have this bunch of wires hanging there that this machine is kicking on and kicking off, or whatever that situation is. I want it to go through a static cycle or whatever. We can use the pulse device for that. And put it on. I'm going to be in the kitchen cooking or whatever that is, and you don't have to worry about changing all these settings. The other thing is, I've had a lot of people in the past when they're using a lot of the home units. I'm not knocking home tens units and things like that, but I know when people use a lot of that stuff in the past, is if you're not careful, you bump that button, the button on it that adjusts it, and you're not paying attention. Those things, that 9 volt battery or two double A's or whatever, will light you up, and
Yeah.
so there's some risk with that, some risk. And as far as my knowledge of what I'm using it for, I've not seen anything that's just this huge risk. I mean, do you have anything that would be a big, just off the top of your head? I know you're going to have a disclaimer and all that, but anything off the top of your head that you think would be a hard no for someone, like, I just can't think of, if you got XYZ, absolutely this would not be for you. I mean, or is this something, obviously, if they think they have some kind of a medical condition, you want to talk to your doctor if you need to, and all those kind of things, make sure it's clear if it's in question. But have you run across anything that's like, yeah, this one here, this diagnosis here would be a hard no, or this particular condition or problem would be a hard no?
It's funny, since we're not considered to be a medical device, we're obviously super careful about where you can use this thing, how you can use it. If, again, like you said, if you have some sort of medical diagnosis that might put you at risk, we always want you to talk to your physician and make sure that it's okay to use. But this thing is safe to use in almost every single situation. I mean, we have not ever heard any sort of negative feedback regarding safety from any customers ever, which is pretty incredible. And quite often it's the clinicians telling us, I can use this on a patient that couldn't handle or tolerate something like electric stimulation. So this has been a total game changer. It's a safe, effective alternative that is super easy to use. So it's been really incredible to get that feedback from the professionals as well. But the only thing that really sticks out to me is skin lesions. So if you have some sort of open wound, you're not going to want to put a silicone gel adhesive on it or the device. So that's really the only thing. And again, we haven't even heard negative feedback about that. That's just more of a precautionary thing than anything. But yeah, it's been incredible to hear the clinicians batting for us and saying this is the safe alternative to use in a situation where you can't use something like electric stimulation.
Yeah, I mean, I was just wondering, if you had known of anything. I haven't thought of anything other than the obvious. You don't want to put it over some sort of skin lesion situation, or, if you've got in question of something, and then always talk to your doctor. Because again, that's what I tell patients, even, or people that I've talked to about it. It's like, I'm not saying this is the cure all, just like, even, I post a lot of videos on social media, and I'm not saying that those particular things are the be all cure all to all these things, but these are things, tools to put you in the right direction in conjunction with other things that are going to, hopefully resolve your issue or put you on the right path to feeling better and moving better. And that's a goal for, for everybody, is to be able to, be able to move the best, the longest, right?
Yeah. And one thing off of that, sorry to interrupt you. One
No.
other thing on that note too. So I think a lot of it has to do with someone's comfort level as well.
Yeah.
Like whether you're allowed to use it or you want to use it is two totally different things. And a lot of times when somebody's using electric stim, they might get some sort of involuntary contraction that makes them feel discomfort. This device is so gentle. And like you mentioned before, a lot of times will modulate your pain in a really positive way. So people that are intimidated by those strong stimulators, they find our device to be the exact opposite and find it to be so comfortable, so easy to use, and really, again, something that they actually want to use versus something that they might fear to use, which is really nice. And random example, but I used to use electric stimulation on my shoulder after I suffered from a partial rotator cuff tear. And it was one of those things where I never looked forward to using it because it was always having those strange involuntary contractions that I just didn't like the feeling of. And this has been a really nice alternative to that. And I actually have a device on my shoulder as we speak. You can kind of see it right there.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I have the intensity all the way down so you can't even hear it, but it's just operating at that sub threshold level where it's modulating that pain. And I've had shoulder issues for 10 plus years now, but it's modulating that pain even though I can't even feel it. It's one of the most profound things ever. And that's part of the feedback we're getting from clinicians now too, is that vibration is having an impact on your proprioception and things like pain modulation, even when you cannot notice it at all. So a lot of people are actually taking our slider and bringing it all the way to the left so that the intensity is theoretically at zero, but they're still getting that effect, that input, that vibrotactile input without even knowing it. So it's really cool. So they see the results, but they don't actually feel the vibration, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, with a lot of people, and I've had patients that they're just really apprehensive of using different types of electric stim and all that because they don't like the contractions. I actually had one. This has been, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I had some stim on the shoulder, and the guy started feeling kind of nauseated. He's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
that's really weird. I'm feeling kind of. I had to pull it off of him. And again, I mean, we still use it in situations. I use it as an adjunct to the other stuff that we're doing. But again, I think that the proprioception, with that, not just the pain modulation, but the proprioception, that kinesthetic awareness, and that is hard to recreate in such an easy method. I mean, I in the past I'd use scraping tools, which I still use those, but maybe for a different reason. Use the muscle scraping tools and done all kinds of stuff to try to get that awareness back. Because like after an ankle sprain, one of the things that for long-term problems for a lot of people, you check them out, use a handheld dynamometer or force plate or whatever. They got great strength, they get great range of motion, no pain. They get in the yard, they play with the kids, bam, roll the ankle again. It's what is going on? Well, didn't maybe it was a motor control issue that had just not been resolved. And a lot of times with in insurance models, a lot of the therapists not able to keep seeing that patient maybe for the length of time that needs to be done for all those visits to kind of, because they're looking at, well, pain is here, range of motion's here, strength is good to go. Well, I mean, I might want to, climb on the ladder, put my lights up on the side of my house or whatever that is. And a more advanced technique or is needed, and you're not able to get to that point with your patients. A lot of times for an athlete, a lot of insurance companies do not care that unless maybe it's their job, right? For some reason, but they don't care if an athlete, if you're like, well, I really can't participate in football or baseball like I used to. I'm in my co-ed league or whatever, some friends down the street. And I'm sorry, that's not an essential to your daily life. We're looking at things like they want to know, can you dress yourself and bathe yourself and walk around in just general walking or whatever that is. Those are the kind of things they want to see, those metrics with that, not how can I push myself up to that next level. And by using this device, it's so simple. You just maximize it. Go to the gym, do the things at home, wherever you are. You're just maximizing. It's like, again, I kind of equate it to like running your vehicle off of a higher octane. Just I feel like I'm getting more. I don't know if I'm getting more or not, but I feel like maybe I'm getting more from performance. And that's what we're all looking for is performance. And it doesn't have to be performance from an athlete, right? I mean, I want human performance. That's what I want. I may not go to doing these other things. I want to maximize my performance. And I saw this thing on Instagram, so hopefully it's not copywritten or anything. I don't think so, but somebody just posted this, and it said, "You want to be it's better to be the oldest person in the gym than the youngest person in the nursing home." And I thought, man, I read that, and I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful, really.
I love
And
that.
so if you have pain and you can't exercise, you can't go to the gym and exercise because you have pain. You've got arthritic knees and you can't tolerate the exercise. And you don't want to go to the gym with all these cords and boxes and things hanging all over you. Slap pulse device on. I mean, again, you're talking, right? Like, look how small. This is small. Throw that on. If you have it turned down low, you can't even hear it going. You can't even hear it running. And you just adjust it, on your phone, with the app. And I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer for me, and that's why I've been such a big supporter of you, and of course, you guys' company and everything, and of course, you've been very supportive of me. I mean, it's kind of we just talked. I know before we kind of went on, like, man, I look on some of the different social media sites. I'm like, oh my goodness, some of these videos, these advertisements have tremendous views and interaction, which is just great. The exposure is there for the product. And a lot of times I'll scroll through some of the comments. I try not to go down the rabbit hole of a lot of the comments because for every one that you get, there's three that's just something off the wall sometimes. But honestly, a lot of that response is really good. And it's a lot of good testimonials that I'm reading, people for all sorts of different things that are using it. And I think that speaks for itself. Even anecdotally, just patient or customer client testimony over what it's doing. Like, look, I don't care about, you've got some research study that's showing this over here, this over here. Although we know there's good research on vibration therapy, of course, but on this product specifically, the kind of the proof in the pudding for me is the patient or the clients, what's helping them, what they're able to do. It's on there. I mean, you're not making that up. That's this person thought enough of the product to come on there and say, this is awesome. This has helped me with this, and this. I see all the time, been using this for a week and now I can do this, and this. Or this is helping me to be able to at least do this a little better. And then you also see stuff, of course, in the general fitness population, like, I feel like my workouts are better. That, kind of mind muscle connection. Those guys back in the 60s, the bodybuilders are, mind muscle stuff and all. I think about, throwing out names, people like Mike Mincer or Tom Platz, these guys, these old school bodybuilders that were very much mind muscle connection kind of stuff. And so I think that you're able to recreate that in such a hands-free way, which is fantastic. So if anybody can't tell by listening or watching this, I'm a fan of the product. So
No,
I've been oh, go ahead. I'm
no,
sorry.
please. I was just gonna say, no, thanks for all of your support over the years at this point. I mean, it's been incredible. And like you said, it's such a nice adjunct to anything performance recovery or rehab related. We hear from the pro athletes that use it to get 1% better when they need help strengthening a certain muscle, or when they're really sore after one of their really hard training sessions and stuff like that. And then we hear from the neuro populations that are improving things like mobility on a day-to-day basis by implementing vibration therapy. So the list goes on. And I think part of the reason that we've gained so much traction just online through our collaborative ads with Guerrero Rehab even is because the feedback from the customers, the clients, the patients has all been so tremendously powerful, and people are grateful that they find our product and that they're able to use it and not have to break the bank entirely to use it in a lot of cases as well. So it's been incredible to see. We're super blessed. We're super grateful to have created this technology and been connected with the right people like you to show us the other applications that it could be used for aside from just that weightlifting category. And again, now we're hearing from people that are implementing our device into vision and hearing therapy. It's unbelievable. I mean, we hear people using it as a non-invasive vagus nerve stimulator, and it's crazy. I mean, these are things that I would have never considered in a million years, but again, clinicians are using it in XYZ ways and showing us that it might be able to help in ways that we never thought of. So it's been really, really cool. And I think this is just the start, believe it or not. And it's crazy. We actually have a 2.0 being released sometime over the next 3 months that's going to have substantially different settings, because we actually have heard so much from people that are now using it for sleeping, believe it or not, and really just general quality of life. So we actually have some settings that are coming up for extended use to help improve sleep patterns, and also help improve things like anxiety and reducing stress and stuff like that. So we've got all these really exciting things coming. And the nice thing is if you have a Pulse Device 1.0, you get a hefty discount on the 2.0 and you still get access to those new settings, but you just won't have the same new device, which is just slightly bigger. But yeah, we're constantly listening to our customers and surveying them and figuring out ways to make this thing better, because at the end of the day, this can be implemented pretty much in anybody's day-to-day life and impact them in some sort of positive way, whether that's for relief or exercise, or they have a friend that they know might be battling some sort of condition and they want them to try it out. There's a million different ways to get involved with the Pulse device and community, and this is just the beginning. So we're really excited.
That's awesome. Actually, if anybody can see, this is the new 2.0 he was talking about. He sent that to me to try out, and it is definitely neat, definitely cool. Awesome product as always. Delivers. I mean, so I'm excited for the general public to be able to use that as well, because again, everything as far as the company, the support that you have, not only just of your folks that you're partnered with, but also, I see out there people have questions about, hey, I need another strap, or hey, I need this, and this. We'll comment on the post, and very few companies even acknowledge that. If you're just being honest, in the big scheme, especially as companies grow. And I see you guys, bam, right there, putting the comment down. Here's the link. Here's what we can do. here's where to find this and all, which is phenomenal. Again, we all want everything to be as simple as possible, which this product is. We all want everything to be as cost effective as possible, which this product is. And then we also want to get the most out of everything that we do, which this product, for me and my experience, definitely delivers on and helps to make happen. So I am a huge Pulse device fan for life. And so, again, awesome product, Ethan. And I think people will definitely appreciate what it will do if they check it out. Just go to your website, check it out. I'll put a link in the description of the website where they can find Pulse device. Is there any other? Where can people follow you? Where can we check you out? What are your Instagram and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and thank you so much for all the kind words, Chad. It's been such a pleasure to be on here, and I can't wait to continue working with you and figuring out new ways to do this and better your patients and just spread awareness of vibration therapy. But if you guys want to check us out, visit pulsedevice.com. We have a 30-day money back guarantee, which I also love telling people, because if you're skeptical about our product and you just want to try it and see if it works for you, give it a shot. We're an honest company. And Chad, thank you so much for the words of affirmation about our customer service. We take a huge amount of pride in that. So if you want to try it risk-free, we've got a 30-day money back guarantee that starts after delivery. So check us out at pulsedevice.com. And you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all at Pulse Device. But again, thank you so much for the support. And this is just the beginning for both of us. I'm really, really excited for what's to come.
Awesome. So everybody make sure, go check out Pulse Device right now when you listen to it. If you're in your car, when you get to a spot that stopped and safe, be sure and check them out. You won't be disappointed. And again, thank you so much, Ethan, for coming on. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.
Awesome.